everyone. Welcome to the Childfree Over 50 Sharing Wisdom panel. My name is LeNora Faye. I am one of the co-founders of the 2021 Virtual Childfree Conference. And today I am joined by two speakers, Lisette Schuitemaker and Shannon Hollis. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
Great.
I am well. Are you having a great day, LeNora?
I am having the best day of my life. I can say that honestly. I've had many great days in my life, but I am deliriously tired and happy.
Well, you should
bundle
be.
of joy has arrived.
It's going so well. All the panels have been just dynamic, wonderful.
I know. It's been amazing just listening. I mean, I'm going to have to go watch the replay again at some point, but it's been amazing. So let's dive right into your panel. First question. How do you prepare for the who's going to take care of you when you get old question? Lisette, let's start with you.
Well, I'm not preparing very well. Or you could say I prepare by being kind, being positive, and being interested. Because I think who's going to take care of me when I'm old? Nobody will want to take care of me when I'm grumpy and critical and limited in my scope. So I really work on, being expansive, being interested, and being kind and making friends with younger people and my nephews and nieces. That's my way.
Jackie?
Well, one thing is I think that it's an interesting assumption that because I don't have children, it's a bigger question because that does not make a difference. I've seen plenty of people with children who did not have anyone to take care of them. And to have a child for that reason it's not a great reason to have a kid. So it's sort of like, I was supposed to have kids so I could be taken care of. I didn't realize it. But I have planned and I've made plans. I've got a niece of mine as my personal representative. She's got my power of attorney. Should she need to have that or medical care? I've made arrangements for a lot of those things. And also I think for many people who are child free, we are in a position often financially by nature of not having our funds have gone to education, whatever. So we may be some people in a little better spot that way.
And I find it interesting that I feel child-free people think more about the future. You're talking about having plans in place, and not everyone does. I don't know, Lisette, if you have paper. I personally have paperwork in place, and I've had it since I was 34, just because my dad told me to do it, and it is important. But we think about that sort of thing, where there is that assumption, or can be that assumption, that the kids are going to take care of you. Then you don't have that conversation that actually needs to be had because families fight. Who knew? So it's interesting observation that sometimes we think more about the paperwork, the actual reality of and it's important to note because
not only the paperwork, I'm going to move and I'm going to throw so many things out because I'm very aware that if I don't throw it out, if I don't give it a second home, or find people who are happy with things that have lived with me long enough, then somebody else will need to do it. Whereas people with children often kind of, the kids will take care of that.
Yeah. I'm curious, Lisette, because I know you mentioned your niece and nephew especially. Is it a conversation that you've had with them at all about your future?
Well, I'm actually going to move into a building where one of my nieces lives.
Wow.
And I've asked her, of course. I said, we get along really, really well. She's one of my friends. Even though she's, I'm going to be 67, she's 36, but we have a great friendship. And I asked her, is that too close? And then I asked her boyfriend, is that too close? But they said, no, we love to have you around as long as you don't behave like an old person. But I don't have that conversation, but it comes up in conversations. And then they're very sweet and they say, we will look after you. You've looked after us, we'll look after you. And I haven't looked after them physically, but more in a spiritual or emotional way.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice, natural, organic relationship as opposed to the forced assumption that you're here, this is what you're meant to do by taking care of somebody. So the next question is, when or have you noticed, do you remember when people stopped asking you if you had kids or were going to have kids? Did that point ever come up? Did you ever notice it?
You know, for me, I don't remember an exact moment. I'm sure I made it pretty clear that I wasn't having kids. So it wasn't so much an issue of when are you going to have kids, but my mother expressed her disappointment about me not having kids. And then there would also be the comment, oh, you and Bill should have kids. You'd be such great parents. And I'm like, part of the reason we'd be great parents is because we don't have kids. I mean, that you think that is because we come in with all this energy and we're fun and we're unique and different to these kids. We're not parents. And so we're sort of something else, something other. So there wasn't an exact moment. I mean, I do remember at a certain point reaching an age where I thought, well, that clearly must look like it's off the table because even the doctor isn't asking that question.
Yeah, my mother asked me for a long time when I was going to do it, but I was kind of single between like age 27 and 39. I was like always working. So I said, I have a business. You have children. I have a business. Some people had children and a business, but anyway. And some people asked me with great kind of care and trepidation whether I had ever thought about it, whether it was a source of grief to me. And so, you know, when I was, I think in my 20s, people were kind of critical. And then at some point, it got different. The tone got different. And then you could have a really good conversation about, you know, a choice, a different way, a different life that wanted to be lived through me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Do people ask you about having grandkids now?
I probably get that question more. You know, do you have grandkids? I think there's just this incredible assumption about it, so I think I've heard that almost more than the baby question, the kids question.
Well, there's, again, you know, I have the white hair. I've had it for a long time, but people kind of assume that I'm a grandmother and that I enjoy grandparenthood and are sometimes a bit shocked. And I think it is really also up to us to kind of conduct a conversation in a way that there is immediate understanding instead of antagonism. Mm-hmm. So when people ask it, I go like, why would you assume that? You know, I have never wanted children. So I see some people really disappear into grandparenthood. Some of my friends, I go like, oh, you've just finished this whole business with children. Now you're going to do it again. Why is that? But I keep my mouth shut.
Well, that segues into the next question, because there's that fear of missing out that, you know, some may feel when your friends are starting to have children and then your friends start to have grandkids. And yes, when you do see somebody just completely lose themselves, and I don't mean it in necessarily a bad way, it can be either or, but lose themselves into that identity of, you know, this is my child, this is my grandchild. That fear of missing out, has that ever occurred to either of you? Talking about the grandparent experience now, when you see your friends go through.
You know, absolutely. For me, there have been times because I was, you know, my story is a little bit different in terms of having had periods of time of wanting children, and so that line between childless, child-free, whatever you want to call those, that. So I'm at a point in my life of experiencing really the full benefits of not having children. That it all worked out just fine. I have noticed with my sisters, both of whom have grandkids, they're doing it very differently. One of them is fully involved. That is very much part of her life. For me, it comes up as a question of identity. And I think that some people so fully identify themselves as parents, and then they carry that on into grandparenthood, that's a continuation of their parenting. And so for me, because I never had the mother identity, I notice that, and sometimes I think it'd be really cool to be that grandma or that woman who the little kids chooses to crawl up in the lap of. But other times I think, I have so many other things going on. I would be disappointing my children and grandchildren all the time.
Lisette?
I'm more of the latter there because, for my book, I interviewed about 70 people worldwide, and I did a survey, and the word that came up most was freedom. And I still enjoy every day the freedom that I have of expressing what wants to come out of, this vehicle, and not kind of put it on my child or my grandchild who's then gonna do the great thing, but really do it here. And no, I haven't. I don't feel that missing out on grandparenthood at all.
I had thought of a question and you totally answered it just now, Lisette. There's that freedom of having whatever identity that you want. This isn't on the list of questions I sent you, but when Jackie was talking, it occurred to me, like, there is, and I think, or from personal experience, that's only something I've experienced out over the age of 35. Is that when you start to own your who you are, what you want to do, and you realize you don't even know half the things you can do or that you want to do, because when we start, when we're younger, we're expected to, okay, we have a plan, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and you have to know who you are, and that's going to be your life for the next 15 years. But when you're not raising a human being, you are free. And I've seen this with both of you, as a getting to know you personally, you both live free, wonderful lives that it's really hard to encapsulate in 30 minutes on a panel. But can you speak to the freedom of having, like, being free to have whatever identity you want at different points of your life? Because I think that is such it's an inspiring.
Well, it's an identity. It's where you choose to live. You don't need to live near a school or near other people for play dates. It is, as we said before, kind of a financial freedom, because I started new careers a couple of times in my life. And that is such a freedom that you don't need to kind of hold down the job because of having to pay for all these, things that a child needs. So and a freedom of identity. I think over my life, I've become more of who I already was, and kind of discarding those expectations and conditionings. And that's still going on.
Yeah. I think, in some ways, I think there are people who've been parents who meet this at a later time in their lives if they don't completely dive in to grandparenthood. And so I feel like at a much younger age, I got to explore this. And like you said, I had, 3 different significant careers, and, just gotten to really pivot, like, this is not charging me up anymore. What else can I do? I think I'll go back to graduate school, or I think I'll start writing. I think I'll start music, just that I have the time and opportunity, and sort of this sense of I don't have to uphold a way of being for anyone else. That it is, and there's upside to that and downside to that too, because I can't lock my identity on externally.
No, and I don't feel that as a downside. I feel that as a richness, that I don't, lock my identity onto a role. Right. Not even wife of. I've never wanted to get married. I didn't want to be somebody's wife. I've been somebody's daughter, and that was good. Somebody's eldest daughter, even. But otherwise, it's so great to just, step into new worlds again and again and again as who you are now, without baggage. Only the baggage of rich experience.
And, one thing just along those lines, and I think I was talking to someone the other day about being 62, and how there's a thing that when you're younger, you can't understand what it's like to be 60. It just looks maybe old to you, or however it looks.
It did. It isn't.
No, I know. And you get to it and realize, man, this is a really great age. I like this age. And there's some, some aches and pains that I wish I didn't have, and some losses. But I think part of, for me, is all the exploration I've had an opportunity to do because I didn't have children has made me feel very solid at this point in my life. I don't know if that is necessarily because of not having children, but part of it feels like it gave me some time to explore some different things.
Me too. I fully agree. I know, my sister has 4 children and her own company, and she's explored many things, but I could not have done that. I really needed a lot of time for me to be able to explore many different facets of myself.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful I followed my own life.
And it's not selfish, correct? We haven't had that word come up at all this conference, and I realized, that's one of the things is I guess that leads into the next question. But there's those misconceptions like, aren't you going to be lonely? Are you afraid of being lonely? And isn't that selfish? I'm lumping those two together, but can we talk a minute about those voices that we hear from society and from our our friends and family who maybe don't mean to say it like that, but it's part of why they do what they do, to surround yourself with somebody. So do you want to speak to the loneliness question a little bit? We'll go with you, Lisette, first.
Actually, I need a lot of time by myself. I can be very extroverted in the world, but I'm also really an introvert. And I enjoy so much time by myself, and I never get bored. And I don't think about loneliness, really. I think there's loneliness in the lives of many people, whether you're by yourself or in a relationship or in a family, wherever, there's lots of loneliness. And every human being has to cope with loneliness and has to kind of find your own company fascinating in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, I like my own company. I like what I come up with, and I like what I do. So let's do that. And self-sufficient, I've called that. I want to be self-sufficient. And the thing about selfishness, of course, that's a huge question. But I come across so many people, child-free people, who want to give all of what they are and explore all of what they are. And how can that ever be selfish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah, I underline all of those things that because I'm similar. I'm introvert living an extrovert's life. Just that I can do it and I can bring that, but I need to go, take a nap afterward. So there's all of that. But the other part is, I think that in not having sort of children and all of the kinds of friendships that might have naturally come through parenting, that I really had, and I was a small town kid who never really learned how to meet people. I had to learn to meet people and create, friendships. And that is a real skill I have, is to how to connect with people, and a love of being connected to people. I have absolutely no fear ever of being lonely, because I know that I've worked on myself, as well as I know how to nurture relationships and of people all ages. And I think that is one thing for people who are child-free, is that sort of this exploration of relationships, friendships with older people and younger people. And a lot of the child-free people I know have lots of young friends, as well as friends our own age. And so that I think, I have a sense of a community that's pretty vast.
I will totally vouch for the loving having older friends. We're all the same age. You're all my age, in my opinion. I know you guys were teasing me about the color of my hair the last time we did the rehearsal, but there is such a richness in, and this is something my dad told me when I was younger. He's like, and I hadn't even told him I didn't want to have kids, but he made a point of saying, be friends with younger people. And at the time I was young, so I didn't think much about it, but it's true. We can all learn from each other. And, I love the conversations I've had with you two, in personal and in other settings as well, too. Like especially in the Childfree Conversation, like in an earlier panel today, we had someone who was 22, had never met anyone else who, like any other person there or older who was child-free. Right. So this was from the BIPOC panel. So, she had never met other Black women who were older who didn't have kids.
Wow.
This was the first time. And to witness that was pretty cool, because I've always gravitated to older people because I was basically born old. And then when I hit 30, I went through my teenage phase. So I'm 38 now and kind of in a really cool place of being kind of everything all at once. But, especially in this conversation, like we are looking for someone who is living the life that we desire and is not so seemingly caught up. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have doubts, I don't know, but just really living life, because we're taught by so many around us that you're not going to enjoy life, you're going to be lonely, you're going to regret it, you're going to all these things because you chose not to have children. And it's just we've all been through it. It wears on us. Mm-hmm. So it is nice to see people who are living.
But there are so many of us. I mean, that was one of the surprises of my research, because I always thought I was a bit of an exception. Mm-hmm. And then I knew other exceptions too. But in the US, in Canada, in Europe, 1 in 5 adults has no children, voluntarily or involuntarily. That is 1 in 5. Walk down the street, every 1 in 5 people has no children. There's many of us. We are many. We're not strange. We're not missing out on anything. There's just, when the Olympics are on, not everybody is watching, because it's not everybody's thing. Like children is not everybody's thing. Right. But this thing of the friendship crossing all ages is what I found in common with people all over the world. That people who have no children is kind of, otherwise you're parents, and then you have the children, and then you have the friends of the children. Whereas there's some thunder going on here. I'm in Switzerland. There's kind of thunder between the mountains here, so I'm kind of looking out, and but it's also, we don't have like the technology. I have to keep up with technology. I have to. I can't say, oh, my son will do that, because there is no person. So I need to do it. And that's why I feel sometimes I'm much more with the times than people who are parents.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. And actually, to that point, Jackie, you said about your skill of making friends. When you don't have children, to kind of bring friends to you, because you know how your social circle changes when your friends start having kids and suddenly they have the parenting groups. But when we don't have that, it's on us. Right. It's on us, as you both have mentioned, to stay interested in life, to find who you are, enjoy your own company. I'm also an introvert posing as an extrovert because I'm super chatty, but all right. So we have, incoming question from, I would like to ask if they sometimes have regrets. All right. Who wants to answer this one?
I think regrets is an interesting word. I have experienced, and this goes a little bit to what Lisette was saying about some people like to watch the Olympics and some not. I don't have regrets. I have times where I see I could have taken that path and had that experience. Sometimes I feel like I'm living parallel lives. There was a time where, when I was younger, where I was very afraid that I would have regrets. And it seems like as time went on and I felt more and more okay, and I saw all of the positive experience of this coming in, that those regrets became smaller. But I think when you're in that, for some people, in an in-between place, not knowing what if they're making the right choice, it's scarier. And so I don't have regrets. I have times where I see, oh, that could have been a way I could have gone to, and probably would have been happy in a different way, or content in a different way. But I feel incredibly joyful in this way.
Excellent.
That's beautiful. Well, I can say I have no regrets. Really, I have no regrets. I am so proud of myself of not having given in to, the eldest daughter needed to get married first, to have children first, and I didn't do it. And I'm really, really grateful to myself for sticking it out. And I have described myself as kind of a 70-30 person, like in the 100%, 70% of me did not want children and that whole settled life. But 30% wanted that kind of experience that is like no other, right? And over time, the 30% has kind of dwindled to not even 8% anymore. I have my life and it suits me and I love it and I have no regrets.
Oh, I love it. That's great. Okay, another question. How do we respond to people's remarks that we are selfish for being child-free? Okay, so we have 4 minutes to answer this question.
Well, maybe by, very often a good way to respond to such a remark is just to ask a question. What do you mean by selfish?
Mhm.
What do you mean by selfish? And if they say, well, selfish is just you live only for yourself, and they say, what do you mean I live only for myself? I have been an employer. For me, I've been an employer, I'm an author, I'm a giving person. So I think the whole trick is not to go into defense. And I know when I was young, I did go into defense. I felt very aggravated, not seen, not taken seriously. It's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, I think it so much comes from the perspective of, the person who feels like they're giving up their lives or their needs for this child. So it looks like you're out there, la, 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 having a great time. And well, we are, but there's, for me, it's always been such an interesting thing because I was someone who was on the fence and went from being childless by circumstance to child-free, that not having children was a much more selfless experience. I made the decision to not have children because of I was in a relationship with someone who didn't want them. And my experience was many people had children without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
They just, and can be a rather selfish action to make such a big step without considering it deeply. So one of the things I would say to that is, can you tell me how not having children is not how having children is not selfish? I'm just it's similar to what Lisette is saying. I'm confused about the term selfish.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Lisette, how can people reach out to you if you want them to reach out to you at all?
Oh, yes, I do. I love to be in
people.
these conversations. Maybe not as much as you do it every day. But so I have a website with my unpronounceable name. That's because I'm Dutch, Lisette Schuitemaker, lisetteschuitemaker.com. I have a book which is called Childless Living, which is a bit of I would have had a different title if I had known more of this child-free, childless, dichotomy that doesn't exist in my language. But please reach out to me on Instagram, Childless Living, on Twitter, on Facebook, through my site. And I love being in these conversations. We are not alone. You are not alone.
Thank you. And Jackie?
You can find me at my website, JackieShannonHollis.com. And also, if I have a book, this particular Childless Love Story. And it's also available in audio if you want to hear it. And then I'm in the usual places, especially on Instagram these days, where you can see my puppy and my garden. But there's contact information on my website as well.
All right, so thank you both for joining us today. This has been the Childfree Over 50 Sharing Wisdom panel. Lovely to talk to you on this topic, and you've given me so much hope, which you always do anyway. But it's just so nice to have these conversations. So thank you again. And
thank you, LeNora. You're a star. You're a star. Thank you so much, the three of you, of making this conference happen. It's really great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And really great to connect with you too, Lisette.
Yes, you too, Jackie. We'll do that more often.
Yeah. Thank you, LeNora. And
you're welcome.
It's great.
Thanks for watching.
If you have a question for us on this topic, put it in the comments below.
And feel free to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.
And we still got cool merch available. We'll put a link in the description.
Thanks to StreamYard for sponsoring the 2021 Childfree Conference.
That'll have to do.
That's good enough.